welcome or welcome back to my channel and Happy New Year. I'm Xoxo, this is Xoxo Tarot, and in today's reading, we are going to be doing something that many of y'all requested on my last reading, which was 2026 predictions. You wanted 2025 reflections, and at first I was like, why? I don't even want to think about what I was doing yesterday. But you guys were actually cooking with that, and I'm so glad that so many of you wanted this reading, because I think it is going to be a really great one that you guys are really going to find enjoyable. But also, I think you're going to find that this is also a really great collab, and I want to introduce you to someone that is also very enjoyable and very wonderful. If you guys have never come across Morgan in the comments, I'm sure you have and you don't realize it, because she's very funny and she's had many a comment go to the top because she's just that girl when it comes to words. And also when it comes to music and drawing and reading and lots of other things. Morgan has an account called Pauratraits, where she does personal readings for people. She draws auras, she pulls cards, she uses tons of different divination techniques to give people beautiful readings. She's given me one. It's actually on her page if you want to go see it. It is real and it is authentic, and obviously it is a version of me from the past. I got it about a year ago, so I was in a much different place at that time, but it was very powerful for me and a very healing thing for me. And actually, she was kind enough to offer every one of you here 20% off your own personal reading. All you have to do is email her and tell her Xoxo sent me, and I will have her links down below. But essentially, over on her channel, she is going to be doing a collective reading. Obviously, the same way we're doing collective readings, like with different groups, but she's going to be looking at the energy and aura of your 2026, which is really cool and interesting. Like, it's the first time that she's doing it as well, so I think it's a really cool thing. If you've never gone and checked out her channel, you really should. If you've never gotten an aura portrait done, you should do that. I think that she's a fantastic reader. She cares so much. She puts so much effort and love into what she does. She's so creative, and honestly, her editing game is unbelievable. She had me laughing my ass off my whole reading, and honestly, I would say, like, if you enjoy me, you'll definitely enjoy her and her channel, and I think she just deserves so much more visibility and support, because she's a really awesome creator and, you know, just someone who really genuinely cares about what she does. So thank you, Morgan, for collaborating with me. I will have all of her links down below. Definitely go over there and support her, or else. Yeah, I hope you guys really enjoy this collab that we've cooked up for you guys. So on my channel, since you're here, what we are going to be doing in our 2025 reflections, we've got a couple of things we're doing. We're going to start with an energy check, and we're going to ask, how would you describe your year? Not how was your year, but how would you describe it? And if the first part resonates, congrats, you found your reading. If it doesn't resonate, try a different group, because if you're like, that's not how I would describe my year at all, I would say that's not your group. Then, once you've determined it is in fact your reading, we are going to start by getting an acknowledgement of a significant challenge you survived, overcame, or endured. I don't know how all of you will feel about this one, but I felt like it was really important to just be like, yeah, like I think 2025 was rough for a lot of people, myself included. And I think sometimes it can just be really healing to have, you know, spirit or the conduit communicating for it, be like, yeah, dude, like, pat on the back for, like, I'm sorry that you had to deal with this challenge, but also, like, look at you go. You deserve to know that, like, yeah, you got that dog in you. So we're gonna look at that next. So that's extra confirmation as well, because if you're like, that's not a challenge that I had to deal with this year, and I had challenges, it wasn't those, once again, pick a different group. Then we're taking a lighter route, and we're gonna celebrate something you released for good. Then we're gonna get high praises for you for a significant area of growth, whether you recognize it or not. Especially if you don't recognize it, because I think a lot of ways in which we grow, we don't really recognize it until later, or we don't recognize the value of that growth until later. And then we're going to look at what was the point of this year, spiritually speaking. If it doesn't make sense to you what the point was, it's probably something you are still like, it's a soul, it's like an experience or something that your soul is still learning, and it's probably a theme that will carry on into 2026. For some of you, I feel like it's only meant to be for, it was only meant to be for 2025. But for others, I feel like this could give you an idea of maybe how your soul is growing right now, like kind of the main idea of the experiences, the point behind the experiences it's having, how it can show you like why shit be happening when you want it to stop happening, essentially. And then we're gonna finish off by essentially looking at gifts you'll receive in 2026 made possible by your 2025 self. So things you did in 2025 that will allow you to receive gifts in 2026 as a result. So it's almost like gifts you're receiving in the upcoming year sponsored by your past self, which I love. So I'm excited to do this reading. I think it's going to be really fun. And, you know, I would really like to get a satisfying conclusion on our 2025 as we say goodbye to it. So, and then of course, definitely go to Pauratraits channel to check out your 2026 year aura energy. You will not want to miss it. So we have 3 different groups for you to choose from. All of them have the same amount of cards. So really pick based on what you feel most drawn to, not what you feel most like you like the most aesthetically, but what pulls you, even if it's not necessarily what you would choose. Hot tip. But starting with the first stack of cards for group number 1, will be group number 1, and we have this druzy agate flower on top. And then for group number 2, we have the second stack of oracle cards, and I have this rhodonite lotus on top. And then for group number 3, we have the third stack of cards, and I have this ametrine rose on top. Ametrine being a mixture of amethyst and citrine. So go ahead and pause the video if you need to decide which pile you feel most drawn to. It is absolutely okay to be drawn to more than one. Just take it how it resonates. Of course, that's why those energy checks are there, for you to really get confirmation what's for you and what isn't. I would love to hear if it resonates. And if you are gonna say, but it's 2026, why are you putting... I wanted to let 2025 fully cook. Okay? Please just give me a break. But with that being said, intro squad, I do have a question for you. And my question is, what's your own 2025 reflection that you just like want to share? Like, what's an observation you had about that year? It could be about the world, it could be about yourself, it could be about observations. Just what is something that you feel called to share about the past year that you've been reflecting on? I feel like for myself, I was kind of reflecting on, as I was making this reading, like coming up with it, I was really reflecting on the fact that, you know, the whole 2025, I was really focused on like just trying to improve myself. And when I wasn't really pressuring myself to, I wasn't shaming myself, I guess, essentially. And the whole year, I feel like I was kind of running on this like program of, okay, I was kind of in like moon energy. Like I can't really quite see the way forward. I don't have a whole lot of clarity. I don't really know what's going on, but I do know deep down everything's okay. So I feel like I'm just going to try to be gentle with myself and not stress myself out too much, which, you know, depending on the time, I can be more and less successful depending on when. But, you know, now that I'm looking back at all of it, I really realized my greatest gifts in 2026 were the challenges, or 2025 were the challenges that I experienced. And also, just FYI, like, in your reading, if I say the wrong year, yeah, probably. I'm thinking about more important things than the date. I just realized, like, the biggest gifts that I received in 2025 were in all of the challenges that I had, and also in the fact that these challenges were things that I couldn't just use my mind or use my spiritual, like, connection, because truthfully I didn't really feel very connected to it. I couldn't just like I couldn't just easily solve my problems this year, or like I don't know how to explain it, but I guess just 2025, at least for me, was kind of one of those awkward periods where it's like, it's just the messy parts of growth. It's like the mud without the lotus, realistically. And I realized I'm really grateful for the mud, because the mud was where I needed to be. And I feel like I spent a lot of time being like, okay, I'll get out of the mud, and the mud is just, it's just temporary, it's fine. And I think part of myself was even judging myself for being in the mud, and being like, why don't I have things more figured out, even though I knew realistically that's an unrealistic expectation to have. And I think the whole year I was just really pushing and striving for, okay, next week I'll be better, I'll do better. Next week, I'll step up, I'll do things differently. And honestly, by August, bitch was tired and so I was like, next week. And actually, that is when I did branch out in a big way and had my first class. So shout out to everyone who took Cards and Stars. I do think we will be launching it again, and other stuff is definitely coming. And I really hope to bring you guys more class stuff in 2026. I really enjoyed being able to sit down with you guys and like really connect with you guys more one-on-one, and be able to share what I love with you guys. So I really hope I get to do that more. But I guess in all of that, I spent the whole year trying to get out of the mud, when realistically I just needed to be a little piggy and just roll up in it, because my wisdom was in the mud all along. And I'm actually just really grateful I wasn't able to like spiritualize my way out of the mud or push myself out of the mud. Like, there's a reason why I couldn't push myself. It's because the mud had the wisdom for me. We don't just get to figure our way out to the lotus. It's a process. It's an element of growth. And I think like a lot of aspects of growth are boring as hell, kind of unfulfilling, humbling, and uncomfortable. And all of those experiences, I think, have been really great for me. And embracing discomfort, I think, has been one of the best things that I've taken from this year. So yeah, my 2025 reflection is that I'm grateful for the mud I was stuck in, because it's given me a lot. And I think I'm going to continue to roll around in it for a little while and see what other wisdom it has for me as I grow. So yeah, let me know what happened in your 2025. I would love to hear. Or in your 2025, yes, 2025, I'd love to hear. But we're gonna go ahead now and look at your reflections. So go ahead and pick your group or groups, and I will see you in your reading. Hi there, Pile 1. Welcome to your reading, and thank you so much for being here. If you guys chose the Druzy Agate Flower and this first stack of Oracle cards, this is going to be your reading reflecting on your 2025. So we have to make sure this is your reading first. So we're going to start by looking at how you would describe your year. And if you would describe it in this way, you found your reading. If you would not, I would try a different one. So starting with how you describe your year, we have the Hermit, and we have the Heart Eater. Okay, well, can I put both of these guys in the frame, or will it? Oh, yay! Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I can see that this was a tough year for you guys, especially like when it comes to, like, especially emotionally. I can see here that you were probably in a position where you felt really lonely this year, whether you had people around you or not. I definitely think, like, no matter what, for this group, you would describe your year as one where it just seems like despite your best efforts to open up and connect, it's like you really just couldn't put anyone, it's like you, and you shouldn't have to do this, it's like you were in a position where what within you was so loud and intense that it really called you away from the outside world to really start addressing what's going on internally. But I would definitely also say that this has been a year that's been very hard for you in terms of enjoying the sweeter side of life. For those of you that are in a relationship, like especially those of you that have been married to someone for a long time, or if you're in like a long-term relationship with someone that you very much love and have no plans of breaking up with, I think that this could have been a year where that things could have been really tough in that relationship or in that marriage, because I can really see like feeling lonely in that. But also I feel like there's this awareness of like, it's almost like you wanted to be like Mary Poppins, but the situation called for you to be like the Grinch. And I think you have the capacity for both, but also you're not a movie character, you're a human being with complexity. And so I think that this is a year where a lot of just frustrating and challenging experiences really made it so that, your heart couldn't be open in the same way. Or just, let me read this card actually, because I think that this card will word it far better than I ever could. Yikes. I know we can't be too excited about running into this character, but it's possible that this heart eater is misunderstood. She is not here to eat your heart. She eats her own. In a fit, she knows not what she does. She gets in such a state of uncomfortable feelings and confusion that she destroys her own heart. Let's take a moment to learn a lesson from her. She was so overwhelmed by her feelings of anxiety, discomfort, loneliness, and undirected energy that she turned her rage on herself. Let us all be nice to ourselves and our hearts when we are feeling like our emotions are caving in on us. Our hearts are powerful and can send their healing energy through our whole body, including our mind. Talk to your heart today, out loud or not, and say 3 nice things to it. Yeah, like if that's how you felt this year, so valid, dude. And also sounds a lot like compassion fatigue. I really think this year, you would describe this year as one that was very lonely and really challenging in terms of you only had yourself to navigate, and it really didn't feel like you were navigating anything. It felt like you were more so just trying to stay stay functional. And I also think as well, like, part of the isolating component, I think, also just comes down to the fact that it seems like you eat your own pain rather than spread it outwards. And anytime you do accidentally spread it outwards, or do accidentally are not able to show up in the way that you want to, I feel like maybe you punished yourself even more. So I think you would probably describe your 2025 as a year where you really had to kind of navigate things on your own. It's actually interesting because in the Rider-Waite tarot, like the Hermit card, the environment is like snowy and kind of desolate around him, and there's literally like just a blanket of snow outside, kind of in a similar way. And I think 2025 was a year for you to not be able to ignore yourself. But in the process, I think also a lot of those uncomfortable feelings were brought about by, ways in which maybe you have ignored yourself in the past, ways you have overextended yourself. But also just for those of you that are not in a relationship, I feel like this is something that you either hoped for this year or gave up hope, or reached a point this year that you were so exhausted of trying to have that what's the point? Like, you were tired of opening your heart, you were tired of putting yourself out there, and so you definitely did choose to isolate. And kind of in the process, like maybe made it harder for yourself to believe in love or believe that someone is out there for you. But I think it extends beyond to romance, and it's also just, you know, the things that you normally loved, the things that normally brought you joy, the things that normally made the hard times easier. It seems like they just weren't. Like, no matter what you tried, it's almost like antibiotics. Like you got like a resistance to whatever things normally helped you feel better and helped you cope. And I almost feel like the 2025 for you was a year of not being able to ignore and cope with what's going on in your inner world. And as a result, I think that this year could have been a battle between punishing yourself and finding the wisdom in what the universe is trying to show you. So let's move this forward and see and acknowledge a significant challenge you survived, endured, or overcame. Okay, so we have the Two of Cups and we have Waxing Crescent, setting intentions. Yep, this makes a lot of sense. So 3 different interpretations here. And I'm going to start with those of you that are in a loving, happy, healthy relationship that just was going through a rough period. I think the biggest challenge of this year is that every part of you wanted to be an open, connecting, and loving partner, but what was going on within you was just like not allowing you to really connect in the ways you wanted to. And I also feel like with setting intentions here, maybe you struggle to kind of like, maybe you even lost the ability to have the desire to want to show up in a different way than how you were, which is so real, actually. I think there is a part of you that erased yourself in order to receive connection. And I think that, and maybe that's more extreme for some of you than others, but it just kind of seems like over the past year, the biggest challenge that you really had to keep facing was, I desire connection and like and openness and like just that good mutual free-flowing feeling of joy and union and connection. And it just seems like you had like I feel like you could have even woken up in the morning and been like, okay, it's a new day, I'm gonna have a new attitude, and then like it doesn't matter if anything or nothing happened. It just seems like you could not shake off what your internal experience was, and it seems like it was just really challenging to even like be able to put that to, it seems like it was just really challenging to be enduring that and also trying to be a fair partner, and also just the challenge of wanting to be in a position where you're just connecting more deeply, especially if like if part of the reason why you've been here is because there have been like challenges and conflict. I feel like one of the biggest challenges, and maybe if this is as a couple like that you guys endured, was just instead of repeating patterns that keep you disconnected from each other, frustrated and hurt, coming up with solutions and setting intentions and trying to find ways to, your biggest challenge was trying to find ways to connect openly and naturally in ways that you do truly feel, but you had really trouble acting on because a lot of your like internal world was saying, no, we need to be thinking of like, it just makes me think of, you know, when someone is in such a place where they don't really have room or capacity to be considering another because like their internal world is on fire, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, a drowning person can't swim to safety, they're drowning. But if you are not in a relationship, I do think one of the biggest challenges that you may have faced is either maybe that's something you wanted this year and felt like was denied to you, or maybe that's something you didn't want at all and felt bitter and resentful about like other people having that, or about like not other people having that. Maybe you're like, good, I'm happy people have that, but like, why does it have to be in my face? Like, why do you have to shove that down my throat? Like, it's like I could see where you may have just felt like the more you didn't want to see it, the more it was just in your face. But beyond like romance and romantic relationships, I do think that this also just speaks to you having a desire to just connect lovingly and having the attention of just, you know, wanting to be the version of yourself that's truly you, wanting to be the version of yourself that loves to connect with people that they love, that wants to be open to love, or that wants to experience like a type of relationship that you know that you deserve or that you've been dreaming of. And it just seems like, despite your best intentions to get to where you wanted to be, it seems like you were stuck staying where you were, because there were some really intense, really heavy energies that were calling you to pay attention to them. And I think for good reason. So let's celebrate something that you released for good this year and see what that is. Ooh, okay, we have the 3 of Pentacles and we have I am forgiving. So one of the things that I think we need to celebrate, whether you realize it or not, is I do think that you released an idea of compromise that wasn't fair to you. You know, I also think, though, a lot of what may have come up this past year had to do with, you know, just ways in which you were hurt and unresolved emotions, unresolved wounds, unresolved, really anything that's been in your subconscious for a long time that shaped how you behave, that shaped how you see yourself, that shaped how you define your self-worth. And also that's held you back from feeling free in connection and in love. Like, even if you're in a happy relationship, a generally happy relationship, but you were just going through some challenges, it seems like this year you probably realized that there were ways in which you were maybe being hard on your partner or hard on yourself because of past experiences you had that you didn't realize still had lingering effects on your psyche. I feel like you released the need, though, to hold on to grudges and to hold on to punishment for yourself. I also think you released the need to feel like you had to hold everything together all the time. Maybe some of you are the oldest child in your family or something like that, but I feel like you placed a lot of responsibility on yourself always to keep everything together, to keep everyone together, to make sure other people are happy, to think about other people, consider other people. And I think this year was really about seeing how putting everyone else before yourself not only leads to you resenting the people around you, but it leads you to resenting yourself too. And it leads you to resenting people who do have a healthier balance with that. And I also think because of your high standards of yourself, it was really hard for you to handle this year where you were really struggling emotionally, because I can tell you wanted to have control over it and you just wanted to make things better and smooth them over. But that doesn't really solve the problem. It just puts a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. I think 2025 for you was really about you realizing this wound is not going to be fixed by rubbing some dirt on it and slapping a Band-Aid. Might be cheaper than getting medical attention, depending on where you live, but it's not the solution, you know what I mean? And I think that this year you released the need for good to be a team player when the team is excluding you and your needs. Like, yeah, there's no I in team, but there is me. So there's that. But I also think too, you released the need to figure it all out yourself. If you and your partner went to relationship counseling, or if you went to counseling, if you guys both decided to work on things together, it seems like if there's an existing relationship dynamic present here that was a big part of 2025, it seems like you guys worked through that. And also I think that you released a lot of stuff, like just past pain and things that you haven't been able to let go of. I think you truly released a lot of stuff that you weren't able to either forgive yourself for how you coped with it, or forgive them for how they treated you. And I think that no matter what you did, it's all been very positive. I think you've released the need for good to feel like in order for you to be worthy, you have to be a finished product. It makes me think of the concept of Disney World, actually. You know, literally one of the most iconic but wild places on earth. You know, the creator of it, Walt Disney, you know, he used to say Disney World was constantly in a state of becoming. Tell you what, it's not in a state of becoming now. Actually, that is a rant and a ramble for a second channel that I do think will be coming very soon. But like Disney World, you're in a state of becoming, and I think everything's really in a state of becoming always. Like, you're not a finished product. You're not like, I think you released for good the need to feel like you're in this alone, and you need to have it all figured out, and that that teamwork, or that working together, or that just needing to live up to your own expectations. I think you're just kind of starting to realize how like anti-human that is to yourself. And also, I would say as well, you may have released the need to define your worth based on career and based on praise, support, validation from your peers, or just from what you do. You know, if you've put a lot of effort, emphasis, and energy into your job, or what you do in career, or school, or study, I think you may have realized where you were neglecting yourself a bit, or putting all of your energy into a certain place, because that felt a lot safer than facing yourself. And I think in some ways as well, you may have used work this year as a way to kind of shut yourself off from people in your world that you love and care about, because it's just like, it doesn't feel good to be around them when I can't be a version of myself that's emotionally regulated enough to like actually connect. I feel like you really felt embarrassed, maybe, and even ashamed of yourself this year for how you feel like you should have been coping better. And I think that you released for good the need to shame yourself when something comes up that you don't quite understand. Because I really do think that this, like, you were not meant to understand what was going on with you, because you truly had never experienced it before to this degree. I really think you've released for good a lot of stuff that contributed to you feeling so lonely this year. I also think as well, you may have released the need for approval in really powerful ways that maybe kept you stuck from opening your heart more, or putting yourself out there in new and different ways. I could definitely see for some of you that really wanted to find a relationship this year, or really wanted to find just like, whether it was a friend, you know, just someone that you truly connected with on a deep level. It seems like you may be realizing like, oh, I need to forgive myself for not being able to have the energy to actually try to go for those things. I think that you're really realizing like a lot of the stuff that you were carrying in your shell was just taking up like the room necessary for you to just be in the present. And I think you released a lot of past stuff, like you released a lot of stuff in the past for good. And I think that there's a beautiful fresh slate for 2026 that is arriving for you. So let's give you some high praise for your most significant area of growth. For that, we have the Queen of Cups and we have the Whale. How beautiful is that? So yeah, you definitely grew a lot, emotionally speaking. And you might be like, how did I grow emotionally? I was an emotional wreck, or I was reactive, or I was intense, or I was inconsolable at times. And it's like, yeah, emotions be doing that when we neglect them and when we ignore ourselves. I think that you reached a new level of compassion, care, and depth for yourself that you have always have had the capacity to do, but didn't have the wisdom yet to understand. Like, I really do think it's these experiences, but you really did not give up hope this entire year. And I really want you to know that. And not only that, I feel like there's even a part of you that was, even though you were almost eating your own heart, you still knew intuitively who you really were. Like, you are a loving person by nature. You are a compassionate person. You are someone that cares about other people. You are someone that loves the people in your life. And also, I think, just loves connection, community, friendship, which good, thank God. Like, that's your social creature. You should. So no wonder this year was so hard for you. I actually want to read the Whale. Because I think that, first of all, this is the most evolved feelings card in the deck, in this animal spirit deck. And the fact that we have the Queen of Cups here really tells me that you did an excellent, I think you overestimate how much people were aware of how much you were struggling internally. I think you actually did a much better job of containing yourself emotionally than you realize. And I think a lot of people probably never even knew the amount of turmoil that you were experiencing, because for you, I think you just have a high standard of how you show up. And if you don't feel like you showed up in the most loving, open, compassionate way possible, especially like, and maybe that doesn't matter, like, just with random people that you're around, but like, especially with like your partner or your closest friends or your family or, or your children, people like that, that is definitely something that I think that you beat yourself up for so much, but you don't even realize how much of it was not even on their radars. If anything, I would also say that if you have a partner, they were probably really, really happy to see you express more, because I think that they were maybe tired of you pretending like you were fine all the time. But let's read this Whale card. Desire to delve deeper, profound peace, ancient wisdom. The Whale represents profound emotional health and stability. Whale personalities are not afraid of emotional expression or traversing difficult terrain, as they have overcome many challenges in their lives. These experiences have enriched them, given them stability, strength, and a depth that is rare. Whale energy is usually linked to the feminine forces of compassion and communication. We can depend on Whale personalities when all else seems lost, and trust them to be a beacon in our darkest hour. So, when Whale energy is in balance, it's calm, steady, and deeply compassionate. When it's out of balance, it's heavy, slips into an old story. And to bring it into balance is regular self-care. What I think is really interesting about this is, first of all, I do think another area of growth is you have become more compassionate in your communication, not only to others but to yourself. And I think that your communication was never uncompassionate. I think just when you're really overwhelmed, it could be short, or frenetic or hectic, not frenetic, well, it could be frenetic, hectic, or frantic. That was a weird blender of words. But I really do feel like you grew a lot emotionally, whether you see it or not. And I think that the Whale, like reading the Whale, I think that this is something that you're still working on. This is something that, because ideally you're going to be at a place where you can express your emotions and not feel ashamed of them. You can recognize the wisdom they had for you. The reason why you couldn't ignore your emotions anymore was because I think that there was a lot happening for you emotionally that you were ignoring and internalizing and suppressing in order to maintain an outer ideal of what you think is harmonious and peaceful. But true peace and true emotional stability cannot happen if you are not taking care of yourself, if you're emotionally neglecting yourself, or anything of that nature. So I feel like Spirit really just wants to acknowledge, I think you grew a lot in terms of your intuitive gifts, in terms of stepping in to your emotional body and feeling and sensing without needing to understand what's happening. I also feel like you learned to give yourself and others more grace. You also, I feel like, we're still incredibly patient with people, and even people who maybe didn't necessarily deserve that level of patience. You still gave it to them, and that takes some big ass, well, I was gonna say big ass balls, but let's be real, it takes a big ass heart. And I think that, like, you're gonna continue to evolve emotionally. Like, I think you're really meant to be at a place where your emotions are just another tool that, number one, just make life sweeter, and number two, are something that can help you trust yourself and be kind of like a honing beacon for when, or just an alarm, I guess, itself, to remind you when, you know, when you're crabby or when you're feeling frustrated or when you're absolutely drained, reminding yourself like, oh, yeah, maybe I need to take care of myself because I'm feeling a lot of bitterness and rage towards the outside world, and most of the outside world does not deserve that ire. I would also say as well, one big area of growth is realizing that the amount of love and emotional energy you have to give is finite. You are not the ocean. You are in the ocean. You have a cup. You don't have a whole massive body of water to just be giving away to others. And I think a beautiful way in which you grew is that you learned how to honor the fact that at times you couldn't show up in the ways that you wanted to. At times you couldn't just power through. At times you couldn't just ignore how you were really feeling, and you couldn't control how you dealt with that. But that was actually a huge amount of growth for you. It's not something that you really should have had shame for, because it wasn't shameful at all. Realistically, it was the body doing its thing, because the mind had been working overtime to try and do what it felt was best to keep you safe. But the thing is I think that especially if, whether you had a romantic relationship or not, whether you were wanting a romantic connection, or whether you were wanting more connection with your partner, or whether you were just wanting more loving connection with the outside world in general, you are not capable of receiving that in its fullest way until a lot of this stuff was cleared. And also a lot of like unhealthy relational patterns contributed to why you needed to do this to begin with. So I feel like it was a really powerful year where you really dug deep, whether you wanted to or not. And I think in a lot of ways as well, you know, the way that the whale kind of surfaces for air, I feel like emotions came to the surface and made you aware whether you wanted them to or not. So it's like, even if you were like, yeah, but I wasn't really like going within and trying to figure out what was going on, that's fine, because it seems like the process, like your body still figured out a way to make it work, and that's awesome. Like, you really need to recognize that you might not think that you did a lot this year. You might be like, I was the most like emotionally messy I've ever been, and it's like, and that's a sign of healing, because you're no longer hiding it, and also you're no longer holding on to it, so you can make more room for more. And I really do think as well, like, this group, you know, you're not meant to live in the world with your heart separate. Like, you're meant to live as a fully embodied person with an open and loving heart, and you're in the process of learning how to do that right now, and I think that's really, really, really awesome. Okay, so spiritually speaking, let's see what the purpose of this year was really about. Look at that synchronicity. So we have the King of Cups and we have gratitude. So a couple of different interpretations here. For those of you that do have a long-term partner, I do think that part of this year on a soul level spiritually for the both of you was about like just, well, I guess for everybody here, this year was about you. The purpose was about like basically reaching these next steps of emotional wisdom, emotional depth, and emotional awareness. You know, the King of Cups is the most evolved water court card, and I think that this year was about really helping you evolve in terms of that mastery. And I feel like this is a lesson that's going to continue. And here's the thing, this is a lesson that's, it's not like it's a lesson like we're gonna teach you a lesson. It's like more like beautiful opportunities to learn that life can be sweeter when we're sweeter to ourselves. And I think that also for those of you that do have a long-term partner, part of this year, I think, was cementing for you that your partner's not going to abandon you because you're struggling. I think that fear to begin with is something that maybe made you feel like you had to hide parts of yourself around them or really suppress your own instincts. And I would say, you know, it might have been really uncomfortable for your partner, especially if you weren't communicating stuff. They may have not even had any idea that you were struggling so much. And maybe, hopefully, I think you communicated and shared that. And maybe you realized, oh, I'm not in this alone. Oh, that's why it's called a partnership, because it's like both of us are in it. I feel like, you know, especially one of the biggest challenges is if your partner wanted to support you, you may not have let them or not let them in. And there's no shame in that. Like, sometimes we need to carry things on our own, and if you didn't feel safe to, how would you know to do anything differently? And I think that what this year was about for you is realizing that, like, when someone truly loves you, they're not gonna abandon you when things get a little messy. You know, things will fall apart, yes, if, you know, there's no love to be had. I mean, honestly, lots of people stick together even when there's no love to be had, and there's really no purpose to the relationship other than familiarity. But that's not this. I think that if you are in a relationship that you're still in, like, the only time that I would say you were partnered in this year and you're not, like, I would say either you're still with your partner or you're not partnered anymore because you realize the partnership was not good for you. But if you are, like, but I think for a lot of you, if this was just a period in your partnership where the universe was really saying, hey, like, it's time for you to address these things, because like, it's time to address what's happening inside of you, because what's happening inside of you that you're trying to ignore is going to create more division in your relationship, more conflict in your relationship, or just more division and conflict in terms of trying to be like the emotionally open, compassionate spirit that you are to the outside world. I think that this year was really for you about realizing that your emotions, even though you may not always understand them, are helping you, whether you realize it or not, and really having gratitude for how your body how your body and your spirit refuse to let you ignore and neglect yourself in the ways that your mind is comfortable with doing. The fact that your body and your spirit fought so hard to keep you present to what was happening within you is a testament to the fact that you truly love yourself, whether you consciously recognize it or not, because your body is literally being like, hey, buddy, we're not going to let you ignore how painful this is, because it's just going to make the pain worse and it's just going to make life harder. I think that a lot of your soul journey is about recognizing the depth of your emotional sensitivities are not something that are meant to rule you or keep you isolated from others, or be something that makes you feel like too much for others, or it be something that makes you feel like others are going to abandon you. Because realistically, the more you embrace them, the more you feel comfortable working with them and feeling them without being reactive to them. It's all part of growth and part of the process. Like, we're not born into this world just being able to regulate ourselves. We can't even like walk, or, you know, we can't even like take care of ourselves, you know? And there's so many different, like, I think this year was really about for you being grateful that you carried yourself through that journey, and finding gratitude for the reality that even if you couldn't see the point or purpose, that it was all serving anyway. And also, I think that this is likely to continue, just in the sense that I think that you're going to be elevating from the Queen of Cups to the King of Cups, where you're just leveling up again emotionally, where and I think this King of Cups for you is exactly what the whale described, like deep emotional sensitivity, like deep emotional stability, simultaneously existing with sensitivity, compassion, faith and trust, and recognizing that, like, your emotions are communicating to you in ways that empower you to live in alignment with your highest self and live in alignment with the person that feels the most like you. And I think that the real purpose of this experience is being grateful for the parts of you that refuse to give up on yourself, just because your mind wanted to keep you safe. And, you know, your unresolved emotional experiences were something that your mind, you know, didn't know how to like be accepting of. I feel like you're starting to have gratitude, or, you know, the purpose is for you to have gratitude for the processes and systems within you that you may not see all the value of yet. And also realize that true emotional maturity and emotional intelligence are skills that many people do not have. And it is a huge blessing to be able to feel deeply and have and feel safe doing that without shutting down, without being reactive, or without, you know, falling into a version of yourself that you're not proud of or that you've far outgrown. I think that this year for you is about recognizing the love within you, the love around you, and the recognition that love doesn't always look like a Disney movie. A lot of times it looks like, I'm trying to think of, I can't think of anything right now, but, you know, there are plenty of stories about love that is, you know, love this year for you was not about like the shiny hearts and the flowers, and it wasn't about romance. It was about the messy parts of love, the messy parts of life that get in the way of, not get in the way, but actually just ground you in the reality of what it's like to be a human in a body with a past and a history, and someone that you love, or the desire to have someone that you love, or the desire to just engage with people in a more loving way, and recognize that I'm not at that place right now and I don't want to be here. But the whole purpose of this is you seeing like, okay, if I'm stuck in a rough patch of seas right now, I trust that this is bringing me closer to love, the same way the easy, free-flowing, joyful, loving experiences I have are doing that too. They both serve. Gratitude for both experiences, I think, are quite powerful. And I think that the purpose of this as well is to see beyond what's happening in the moment, and zoom out enough to realize like, oh, these are processes that are not happening isolated within a vacuum. Like, I'm not inconsolable today because I spilled my coffee and someone looked at me weird. I'm inconsolable because I've been neglecting myself for years and years and years, and pushing down a ton of unresolved emotion, and I do not have enough room in my nervous system to handle these minute challenges very well, because they're just enough to tip you over the edge. You know what I'm saying? So good job, group one. I'm telling you what, if you're not, if you're one of those people that are not in a relationship and that's something you really want, I think you're well on your way to that. But also, Spirit might be protecting you from getting into a relationship with someone who doesn't have the same emotional depth as you. Like, if there were opportunities that seemed like they were going to be promising and then they fell through, it's probably because this person wouldn't have been capable of like stepping up to your emotional level, and it probably would have made it even harder for you to honor this process, and it might have like slowed the whole thing down. So if you feel like Spirit was taking love away from you this year, just thwarting your opportunities, they were not. Actually, they were protecting you from making this process and this journey more challenging, actually. So they will take it. You're welcome. And if any of you were the ones being a little hard on me for just enjoying the content I make around love readings, I hope that you can check some of them out and see the value in them that maybe you didn't see before. Because I will say, my love readings are not, sure, we're gonna do fun things, we're gonna stroke the ego a little bit, we're gonna do fun stuff, but also I'm gonna make you look at yourself, I'm gonna make you grow, I'm gonna make you evolve. It's a well-balanced meal, my love readings. We have a good mix of you know, and we have a balanced plate. We got stuff that's good for you and stuff that feels good to receive. What's better than that? But speaking of receiving, let's see gifts you'll receive in 2026 made possible by everything you did this year, and you know, yeah. Ooh, yes. So we have adversity. I accept that challenges are the best way to learn. So I think in this upcoming year, when you find yourself being over like hyper emotional, or you feel yourself like being frustrated or angry, even at people that you consciously recognize, like this isn't about them, they don't deserve this. I think you're realizing like, oh, okay, something needs my attention within me because this isn't normal. But also I think you're learning to be more comfortable in adversity. Especially if you're trying to manifest something really important to you, like a specific person or a soulmate, or if you are in a partnership already. I really do think that that has been something that this adversity has really helped you realize, like, oh, challenge brings us closer too. And it's only facing these things that helps you recognize, like, okay, like, we don't need to fall into despair when there's a minor issue or when there is a challenge, because I know we can get through it together and come out stronger. I know I can get through this and come out stronger and wiser. And anything like this, in the future that comes up, I'll face it with so much more ease and confidence because I've already been there. We also, we have the Lovers. Open your heart. Allow love to glow. I said glow, but grow and bloom all around you. You've waited for this emotionally fulfilling experience for such a long time. That's why you've gone through so much purging this past year. And now the time has come. Make your choices by listening to your heart and then following the steps you're guided to take. Joy will lead you to a vibrant and healthy life. Yep. I definitely think, like, for those of you that are in relationships, or that are like, I hope 2026 is better. It's going to be a lot better. And I would bet that a lot of you already actually feel confident. Like, I hope that you've gotten to a place where you're like, yeah, this has been a year of sharing more. And for those of you that are looking for love or partnership, or just someone that you truly connect with, or just the desire to open your heart up to the world, like, that's a gift you're experiencing. Yep, we also have you're protected. It's go time. You're currently being protected. Your universe, the universe has your best interest at heart. Move forward fearlessly and have courage. So yeah, this is definitely the gift of going for it. And this past year, where you felt like no matter how much you try to force yourself to do something, you just couldn't bring yourself to do it. Now, even if you feel any semblance of resistance, you'll recognize that resistance is just hesitancy and fear of unknown outcomes. And I think your heart's going to be powerful enough to say, whatever's on the other side of this unknown, I think is better than staying where we are. We have align your life. What is not aligned or needs to change? So I think whatever you've done in 2025 to align your life, I think is going to make your life flow more smoothly. Like, things are going to happen more quickly. But also, I think that in this upcoming year, you're going to be acutely aware of what is out of alignment with your world and what takes you away from the energy and essence of love. Not just like, and I mean that in the broadest sense, like, so I think that you're really going to be in a place where it's easy for you to say no and let go of what doesn't work. And also, part of the reason why that's going to be a lot easier is because you're not going to be beating yourself up for being the one to release things. I think it's going to be really easy for you to be like, yeah, I don't need to take it personally when someone has a hard time, that I need to do my own thing, or I need to change something up, like that actually serves me. And I think it'll be easy for you to not feel bad about it, because, or not be apologetic about doing what you need to do, because you realize it's up to everyone who is able to advocate for themselves and to learn to handle the discomfort of disappointing someone, or, learning to handle the discomfort of doing what's best for you, even if the other party doesn't understand or isn't supportive, and realizing you don't need to feel bad or apologetic. You don't even need to say sorry. Yeah, I think that's going to be awesome for you. Like, just being able to say no, or I think I'm going to have to, or I'm changing what I'm doing, or I'm doing this. Like, being able to just stand on what you're doing without looking for approval or reassurance or validation, I think is going to be a huge game changer for you. And also, yes, step out of your comfort zone and try something new. So I feel like for all of you, you're going to be kind of speaking back to those things that used to be more emotionally fulfilling that aren't, or used to bring you joy that now maybe don't as much. I think you're really, in this upcoming year, going to be trying new things and experiencing a lot more love and joy. So if you haven't checked out 2026 predictions, you should, because we really go deep in there into a lot of all of the readings. Honestly, were really great. And I think that, like, I can't speak for those outside of my community, but what I can say for my community is that y'all are doing the work, and I'm proud of every single one of you, and you really truly are stepping up to the plate and doing the hard stuff instead of just ignoring it and neglecting it. And I think you're going to be reaping the benefits of all the hard work that you did in 2025 and 2026. I think you're going to be just feeling lighter and more excited and more confident in handling the unknown, because a lot of the hard stuff is behind you. And any hard stuff in the future, you've got much better tools to handle it, and it will not even feel remotely as challenging as the challenges of 2025 did. So group number 1, that is where I'm going to leave this reading. If you want to get 20% off an aura reading from Miss Morgan from Pauratraits, definitely be sure to reach out to her via email. Please go check out her 2026 aura reading. I hope that you guys enjoy her as much as I do. Please go support her and send her lots of love. Ways you could support me, though, like in the video, commenting down below, letting me know how it resonates. Thank you so much to everyone who lets the ads play in the background while you do something else. That is one of the easiest and most supportive things you can do. You don't even have to play them for the full time, just the first 30 seconds. After 30 seconds is all it takes for it to count, and then after that, it's good. You can check out other videos. Sign up for my email list if you're curious about my readings. If I ever open personal readings, which I do not make any promises, I don't know when that would ever be. It'll be something that happens spontaneously and be random. It will only be going to my email list, and it will be one of those things where if you are not signed up and you don't see it and you don't act on it, you're never gonna know what happened. So I'm giving privileges to those that support me most. So if you ever want the hope of that, you better be signed up for my email list. Because I don't know what the future holds. You can tip, Cashapp, palehag, PayPal, social media. Can watch other videos, share me with a friend, send me good vibes. I'm definitely sending you good vibes right back. I really hope you guys have a wonderful 2026. And I really hope you enjoyed this reading. So I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching and for letting me read for you. I hope you all have a wonderful day or night, whenever it is that you're watching this video. And I hope you'll come back and see me again soon. Bye. Hi there, Pile 2. Welcome to your reading, and thank you so much for being here. If you guys chose the Rhodonite Lotus and this second stack of cards, this is going to be your reading reflecting on your 2025. If I say any year other than 2025, you know what I mean. I am doing a lot more important things in my brain. I am not thinking about the year. So if you get confused and you're like, wait, what? It is what it is on the title, not what comes out of my mouth. Y'all know I'm bad with names and labels at this point. Or maybe you don't. Now you do. Okay, so we're going to start by looking at how you would describe your year. If this resonates, then this is your reading. If it doesn't, try a different group and see if you would describe your year in one of the other groups. So to start, we have the Page of Cups in reverse, and we have the Sword. Ooh, okay. Is that all in there? Yep. I really think this was a year where you struggled a lot creatively and felt super disconnected from your inner child. I think you would describe this year as one where you really couldn't just silly your way out of it, or find reasons to move into lightheartedness and playfulness and creativity in ways that were easier for you in the past, or in ways that you had been able to in the past, especially as a child. I really think with the Sword here as well, I think you were really heavily in your head, but also this was not necessarily unwarranted. I feel like this was a year where you really couldn't be in your soft, creative energies and in your playful, fun energies, because this year I think really felt like war for you. I think internally and externally, and you know, maybe for some of you that is a literal thing that you experienced, or a literal thing that your family members experienced. And I just really think this was a year where like playtime is over because we got shit to do. And but I think though, what was really challenging about it is that I think that the parts of you that were playful and fun actually made this state of being harder, because I think that you still emotionally attuned to whatever it is you were fighting, or whatever it is that took up so much of a focus in your life. And it really seems like you channeled all that energy into frustration and trying to understand and like communicating or arguing with people to just like, man, why don't people see reason? But also I would say as well, like I just keep hearing live by the sword, die by the sword. I feel like this was a year where maybe some of you didn't even have a desire to be in your softness. Maybe for some of you, you were just like, you know what, F this. I'm not here to play. I'm here to slay my enemies, literally. I'm here to slay some demons. I'm here to slay some nonsense. But also I think as well, in being in that place, it was very emotionally unfulfilling for you. Actually, I think it was very emotionally draining for you. And I think you also may have gotten quite addicted to, for a lot of you, honestly, social media, or addicted to discourse on social media that was very upsetting to you. And not only discourse on social media that was upsetting to you, but discourse on social media about things that you disagree with, like you disagree with the discourse, and frustration about that. Like it just really seems like you were losing your mind watching the world lose its mind, and you're trying to find some sort of truth and trying to find some sort of understanding, and all you were finding was more bullshit, more frustration, and really nothing to show for it other than resentment for humanity and resentment for yourself, because you know deep down like this isn't a productive use of your time or energy, but that's where you had to be. Now for others of you, this could, I hope and pray it's less about social media, because I love that for you. I think in general you might have just felt like in life like you were fighting more, and like let's be real, there's a lot of reasons why you might have had to really put like your softness to the side and stand up and fight. I will say that that is one of the things that I really do love about Americans in general, is that like you can do messed up stuff, but we're still gonna film it and fight back, you know? I think that I don't know, I think humans are really awesome at the end of the day, and a lot of what we see in modern discourse about them is contrived stuff to make us more divisive and angry. And I think that you were just struggling with divisiveness and anger, but also I think there was a lot of I think you needed to be there. I think for you, this was a year of you seeing what it's like to truly live in your head without the relief and reprieve of taking a retreat to the softness of your creative world and your inner child and your heart. I feel like even your inner child was like, no, we don't like we're in war. We can't play right. We can't play. And this war could have been very literal, or it could have also been figurative, in the sense that maybe you were in an environment that was really unhealthy for you. Maybe you were in a career that was really draining for you. Ultimately, though, it seems like a very powerful source of creativity and connection to self was really out of reach for you this year. but what replaced it was a heavy focus on discourse and thought and communication and violence and fighting and ethics and morals and truth and doing things on this earth and not doing things, and what to focus on, what not to focus on, what's real, what's true. I literally like my heart rate starts rising when I hear the word truth, because I'll say for myself, to validate in your frustrations and validate what you've been going through. Like, I see so many people with all kinds of ideas talking about this is the truth. This is the truth. Truth. And all I see are lies. And I don't see any evidence. I don't see any sources. All I see is a lot of media manipulation and a lot of projecting our own internal frustrations onto greater things and taking them out on our neighbor instead of taking them out on the systems responsible for them. And like, I really do think that this year for you was about like recognizing and stepping into more parts of yourself that maybe aren't as comfortable for you, or that are more cerebral and about like truth and communication and like fighting for what you believe in. But I think also falling for deception, being emotionally worked up by online narratives, but not just online, like media narratives, narratives amongst your neighbors, narratives amongst your community. Like, I think there's just a lot of frustration around that you experienced around, like, you can see that everything is on fire around you, and like every part of you just wants to, like, guys, like, what are we doing? Like, can we just get some water and figure this out? But at the same time, there's almost something deeper within you, like this call that's like, no, burn it all down. Like, and I think it might have scared you. It kind of scared me as it came out, but it's part of the human journey. And I think you would describe 2025 as an incredibly intense year where you are called to step up in ways that forced you to put your emotional world on the back burner, you know, your creativity, your sensitivity. And I think your emotional energy probably, I would say it was probably an emotionally volatile year for you, where you felt out of control, and also where you felt like you were experiencing a level of emotional immaturity that was like out of character for you, and also like not something you felt good about or were proud of. But I think that you may have coped with it by channeling it into frustrations about the way that things were that year that you wish were different, or honestly even just seeking out things to validate why it's okay to be angry and why it's okay to be frustrated. All of it is valid, but I could definitely see it was a year that was incredibly emotionally unfulfilling and instead really emotionally draining. And I could also see this being a year where you felt really hardened and like cold. And even if that was out of character for you, I think that it was something that you would describe it as, like, I think you would describe it either as necessary or as just something like, it is what it is. Like, I think you both lived by the sword and died by the sword this year, in the sense that you understood the value of being in that place and also the consequences. Because one thing that I see here as well, like especially with the Ouroboros here, like almost like getting addicted to thoughts or getting addicted to discourse or just getting addicted to the emotional energy that a lot of media like tries to portray. Like that's why, you know, on this Hell app, you have so many like stupid videos where people are doing things that are objectively irritating because it's like they want to rage bait you to get stuff, to get clicks. That's why there's so many, you know, that's why the media outlets have 24-hour news and they only tell you things that are terrifying and awful, but only from their perspective. Of course, we're not going to give a well thought out, nuanced presentation of anything. We're just going to clip it to fit our narrative and just make you mad. I think you were really like paying attention well, I feel like you were experiencing getting sucked in and also starting to pay attention to what was happening. And even if you couldn't necessarily stop yourself from being a part of it, you still noticed things that you didn't before. I'm thinking right now about 1984, okay, actually, rant. The United States is not turning into 1984. The United States is 100% Brave New World. And if you haven't read it, it is, in my opinion, the superior of the two novels. And also, Aldous Huxley literally taught George Orwell. So, you wouldn't have 1984 without Brave New World. I'm just saying. And also, like, you're telling me, like, of course, neither of them are, like, one or the other, but, like, you read Brave New World, and you'll be like, oh yeah, this is our dystopia. It's a dystopia where we self-soothe through, in Brave New World is something called, like, Soma, and it's, like, way better than anything any other company has invented. Besides maybe Purdue Pharma. Look how that turned out. Yeah, you should read Brave New World. It's a very important book, and truly excellent and important. It is just as, if not more important than 1984, because I would say that our world is evolving much more into that than it is just the bleak 1984 like intensity. But speaking of 1984, what I was seeing here is, when they would have like the 2 minutes of hate, and how like Winston didn't even, the main character, he didn't even like he didn't even feel that vitriol and that rage towards whatever it was, Eurasia. I can't remember what the territories were called. I don't know if they were at war with Eurasia or whatever. Whoever it was, it didn't really matter, right? Because it was all made up anyway. He describes, like, in those moments, just being overcome with the emotional energy, like, even if it's not even something he truly believed, but like in the moment it's just like the collective hive mind and the amount of emotional energy, like, it just overtakes you. And I think that was part of what you were experiencing this year. I think that you were really being a human in a society, in the sense that you were really stepping into emotionally dry and very draining environments, but that's where you were, and I think I would be willing to bet you learned a lot. Let's just keep going and see what happened. Overall, though, I would say that this was a year where you were really moving in your head, and I would also say that, like, if you were stressed out by a lack of creative inspiration, I think you supplemented that by venting your frustrations into or getting sucked into things that mirrored your own frustrations, if that makes sense. And that's not necessarily a good or bad thing. I mean, it's bad in the sense that it's unhealthy, and, well, I mean, in so many ways it's a bad thing. It wouldn't be a bad thing if we had a responsible media, but we don't. So anyway, acknowledgement. Let's acknowledge a significant challenge you survived, endured, or overcame this year. Yeah. Yup. We have Legos. Intuition, evolution. You were really, like, I feel like you were really stuck, and I feel like throughout all of this, the biggest challenge is that I think you would describe this year as one where, even as you were sucked into this mental, like, realm, I think it's either more heavily than you've ever been, or you just stopped trying to resist it, or maybe just a lack of creative inspiration made it easier to stay there. But I see your greatest challenge here being that you didn't know where to put your focus, and also you didn't know how to trust your greater instincts, especially because a lot of your instincts went against narratives you were being told, and also those narratives, like, making sense. Or those narratives speaking to a part of yourself that made you feel guilty for self-advocacy, or feel guilty for unplugging. I think that your biggest challenge this year was learning how to handle what you truly take in from the world. It's almost like you really were, like, feel like your emotional world had a lot of wisdom for you this year, and I feel like it led you to just more confusion and exhaustion because you were trying to understand it from a logical place rather than flowing with it. That was the challenge. However, I have to believe here with Legus, I have to believe that in those moments as well, they could have led to creative inspiration or planted the seeds for that. You may have felt like even some of the things you were getting sucked up in, you were like, this is beneath me. Like, I know what trap I'm falling into right now, but yeah, I can't seem to like stop myself. But I also think that there were times where intuitively you felt like something was off, or intuitively you felt like you should do something or protect yourself from something or look at something differently. And the amount of emotional intensity around a narrative being presented to you, or like the amount of emotional energy around this is what's right, made you feel like you were wrong for feeling that way. And additionally, you were wrong for feeling that, like feeling that way to begin with. Is this some sign of moral failing or some sign of lack of caring about others or something like that? I think you just like really lost, and I'm using like more specific, like the link, the stuff coming through is like very specific. So I hope that you're taking it how it resonates, especially if it's beyond that. I just really see you having a hard time trusting yourself, trusting your own intuition, and knowing what to trust in general, which I think is very real because there's been a general like erosion of trust in institutions and between each other. And I think your biggest challenge was just how to move forward when you were stuck in your head and feeling like it isn't safe to move forward because you don't know what the right thing to do is, and there really is no right thing to do. There's only just what we do or don't do. And I think really it just kind of seems like you were drowning. It's like you were stuck in a cyclone of thought to avoid drowning in overwhelm over things in your world personally that you didn't quite have an understanding for, and that you didn't even have the energy to investigate. It's like, I don't really know what's going on, but I don't even have the energy to go deeper. And honestly, I'm just kind of angry at everything. Like, I think that was really a challenge for you, is like tapping into your intuition and trusting it, and also recognizing that some of the ways in which that maybe you were being asked to grow required you to do an uncomfortable thing, which is just accept that people may not agree with how you choose to move, and people won't always understand why you choose to do things, and also people's judgments and opinions of what you choose to do or how you choose to move in the world are not something that you should live by. And also, they don't know any better than you do in terms of what's best for you. Actually, you know better than them. So I think your biggest challenge was kind of learning to trust your intuition even when you didn't know to trust it, or you felt like in trusting it you were doing something wrong. Like, I don't know. I have examples, but I feel like that I'm just gonna not give them because I feel like this fits for so many different things. I really just think like overall your biggest challenge was just knowing how to move forward and follow your own flow when you feel completely disconnected from it. It seems like the water isn't really moving at all, and you're not only concerned about that, but you're just overthinking about a lot of other stuff too. There was just a lot of mental and psychic noise. And I think also your intuition was like screaming at you, trying to get your attention. And I think that also contributed to the frustration and challenges as well. So let's see. Well, with that being said, let's celebrate something and lighten the mood a little bit and see what you released for good. Ooh, okay. We have the 7 of Pentacles, and oh, I love to see this. Okay, hello. Frozen Diet Coke, hello. If you know what I just did, what I just referenced, I love you. Okay, or should I say hello? I think you release the need to be patient with every motherfucker in existence. Like, I think you really realized, oh, my job isn't to do everything everywhere all the time, and I don't need to tune into everything. And also, I don't need to be guilty for wanting goodness in the face of a lot of harrowing shit. And also, realizing I want to feel good on the journey and in my own process, and not just be wishing for the results. Like I feel like one of the things that maybe drove you creatively and also drove you like spiritually as well is reaching the outcome, like reaching, like finishing a goal, getting to the end point, like reaching the next level, reaching the next milestone. And I feel like the process to getting there was not only making you miserable, but completely eroding your ability to enjoy what makes you you, which is like what a big thing is creating. Like we're all humans are creator beings, but a big part of your joy is creating. And I think that one thing you may have released for good is the realization is the like the lack of awareness around realizing that centering yourself in your world and doing what you need to do to take care of yourself is not callous, it's not selfish, it's not turning your back, but rather it's you learning how to cope and survive in a world that quite literally is on fire, and recognize that you panicking and also adding to it is not helping anything. And in fact, if people want to be mad at you because you're not making the fire bigger, but in fact are trying to put it out in your own ways, that is noise that you don't even need to listen to. They can buzz off. I think you also release the need to have everything figured out and release the need to understand things in order to release them. I think part of you learned this year that sometimes like wisdom just comes from experience, and I think you had experiences this year that gave you the wisdom that, okay, things, I think you just learned how to be more centered and also how to be more grounded, and where patience and also like healthy boundaries are really helpful in terms of creating more emotional safety for you and creating more joy in your process. I think you also release the need to perform or work, like whatever you do for work or career. I think you may have realized like you may have been putting too much of yourself in that, or you know, like if you, let's say you have a very busy job, it's like you're at your job all day and you're exhausted, and then you come home and then it's like turn on the TV and like and then it's like, and then you get sucked into more draining, exhausting stuff, and it was like a cycle. I think you released for good a part of you that was completely ignorant to how you were unconsciously exposing yourself to more like frustration, burnout, lack of creative inspiration, etc. How you were exposing yourself to those things, and instead, I think that you release for good a feeling of helplessness around it. Like you can't control it. Like the collective consciousness of the world's going to overtake you, rather than you learn how to be in it without drowning in it, but still be present in it, and learn to balance like being an open and empowered human, and taking a step back and knowing when you need to care for yourself so that you can be in the world. I think you also release the need. You may have taken happiness out of your idea of what is I think you release the idea that happiness should be a constant state of being, or that you not being happy is a sign of failure, or that others being unhappy is something you're responsible for. I think that you really release the need to be responsible for other people's emotions and recognize, like, blaming other people for how you feel is an incredibly emotionally immature thing and not something that you have to carry. But also, I think that you release the need to use accomplishment or an idea of how good accomplishment should make you feel as like the thing you're striving for, and instead replaced it with consistent process and finding joy in tending to what's already there. Like, if you started gardening this year or started like just doing anything with your hands in the earth, I think you may have released some sort of habit that you did before that made you unhappy. Like, you might have replaced unhealthy habits with new, more grounded, healthier habits that are not only bringing you closer to your spirit, but like closer to your heart and closer to what can bring you a feeling of joy in times of hardship and times of turbulence. And I also think you learned how to not let the instability of everything around you mess with the stability you've already cultivated for yourself. In fact, I think you've recognized the importance of it because you can't assist in stabilizing anyone or anything else if you can't do that yourself. So very powerful stuff. I think you release the need to be responsible for things that were never your responsibility. And you also release the need to have an idea of how things should be. And instead you just started looking at how things are and finding joy in precious moments and in the process of your day-to-day life. And I think that's one of the most badass and rebellious things anyone can do. And honestly, you inspire me, and I'm going to be taking a page out of your book. Even though these are things that we know, you learn the difference this year between knowing and being. We know that social media is toxic. We know that like AI sucks and is like objectively a net negative based on the impacts like environmentally and just the fact that like I guarantee like I don't know about you guys, but like as soon as I click on a video and I can feel ChatGPT through the screen, and I'm just like, ugh, I click off immediately. And so I would even say, like, if you write stuff and have ChatGPT edit it for you, stop, because you're gonna lose your credibility with especially people like me, because I'm gonna be like, oh, you wrote this with ChatGPT, and I'm gonna click out, even if it was your original ideas. Let it be messy. Let it have your voice, because the minute I see like, it's not this, it's not this, it's this, like I want to do things that the YouTube censors will get mad at me for, so I can't say it. But I will say it. It is something where I'm just like, you are a better writer than ChatGPT, okay? There are literally so many tools that you can use to improve your writing, like that please guys, like, please write. You're a better writer, I promise. You're better. Like, anyway, man, I'm ranting a lot, and duh. Like, I'm getting a little uncomfortable with like everything that I'm saying. No, I'm not uncomfortable with my opinions. I'm uncomfortable with being perceived by my opinions by people who interpret them in bad faith and want to create problems with me, and make it like my problem and my deal. And you know what? Those people can fuck off. So, and I'm guessing that's what you released, is the need to really be concerned about that. So once again, I'm going to be taking a page out of your book, and I think you've learned to be more unapologetic, because I think your work and your actions speak for themselves. You know, people be lying about people all the time. I've had people lie about me on here publicly, accuse me of things that I would never do in a million years. And you know what? My actions speak for themselves, and they have. Because nobody believed that shit. Like, rightfully so. And that's really the thing. Like, we're gossiping in this file. It's actually kind of fun. Don't tell the other groups, though, because, like, this is between us. I think you really released the need to feel like you had to explain yourself for what you're doing, how you're moving, how you're growing, and what you're building in this world. And that's awesome. And I think that like it certainly inspires me and is something that I've been trying to do. So like I'm really excited to see you doing it and releasing it for good, because it shows me it's possible. Like definitely comment down below like what you guys have been doing to really just center yourselves. For me, I forgot how much I love silence. And at first it was really uncomfortable for me to sit in silence. But after I did, I just realized like this like my brain felt less like tense, and I could just hear my own thoughts so much more, and it was nice. And I was just like, maybe I shouldn't attempt to erode every single thought in my brain because I don't want to deal with them in the moment. I don't know. A lot of happiness just comes from living more simply and being more balanced, and I think that's what you're doing. That's a lot of what I've been learning this year, and I think that's what you did truthfully a lot more successfully than I. But I'm really happy to see this for you, and I hope that you are happy, because you should be really proud of yourself actually. And I also think you released the need for happiness to be something that was necessary for you to feel okay. I actually think you learned how to create more groundedness in your world so that you had things to turn to when you needed joy but you couldn't find it. So that's really cool. Okay. Next, let's get some high praises for your most significant area of growth. Oh, okay. So we have the Knight of Cups and we have the Swan. Oh my gosh, Billy. I was just thinking, like, this penguin reminds me of the penguin from Billy Madison, and then the swan, like, stop looking at me, swan. So Billy Madison could be a significant, movie or synchronicity. But actually, it seems like you have grown significantly in your emotional awareness and how you flow with creativity. So you would describe your year as being hard creatively, but actually it's led to your biggest growth creatively. And maybe it has to do with just this whole process. Like maybe you saw where, you know, how your routine made it easier or harder to be creative. Oh wait, why wasn't I thinking of this? One of your biggest areas of growth was in your healing. You healed a ton this year. And actually, I think a lot of this healing happened in the tail end of the year. And it really just came from a lot of processes that you were carrying all year that really came to a head, and you just kind of released a lot of it at once, which is cool. Maybe it was different for others of you, but that's just the vibe I get for some of you. The goddess Sarasvati could be significant. I really do think like healing, integration, and union of the body and the spirit were all focuses of this year. And I think also you recognize that where and how emotional volatility, either within you or outside of you, was keeping you in a state of defensiveness or conflict instead of a state of healing. And I think you learned a lot about protecting yourself, and I think you also learned a lot about how these times can be so powerfully creative, because I'd be willing to bet now you're at a place where you have a lot more faith in your creativity, like, and also just faith in your inner world to guide you. Like, I think that the way you tapped into your inner child earlier in your life is a very beautiful thing, but I also think you're evolving. Like, I think your inner child is evolving as well to be just a piece of the picture or a piece of the puzzle, not all of it. I think emotionally speaking, you're really growing and feeling more comfortable sharing the good and the bad of your experience, whether it's through healing conversation or healing artwork, or choosing to see life through more romantic or lighter or more just like poetic eyes. because that gives you meaning and that keeps you going when everything seems hopeless and nothing seems worth it anymore. I think also one significant area of growth is, I think there's a part of you that kind of decided not to give up on humanity, and I think that like actually makes me want to cry. Like that's one of the most beautiful things you could ever choose to do, group 2. And I really commend you for that. Like, you know, you're still a human and you're still gonna feel however you're gonna feel sometimes, but I think you're really starting to integrate more space for the complexity of your own experiences, and how that complexity, you can channel it into how you write, oh, thank God you write. I loved hearing that. I loved hearing that come out organically. Yes, you write. Ugh. You write, you use your brain. Yes, thank you. I do have to say this because it's on my mind. How can you have pride in thinking for yourself when you use ChatGPT for everything? Like, and I'm not saying that to anyone. I'm not saying that to anyone at all. I can't even think of someone that I'm saying that to. I could have completely made up right now anyone that thinks that. But honestly, given that there's 8 billion people on the planet, there's probably someone that thinks that. I really do think this is a year where you evolved creatively, where you learned how to protect yourself better. You know, this Knight of Cups has some armor, and swans, like, they could bite. I think that you gained a lot of respect and dignity for yourself this year, and recognized the fact that you didn't choose when you were born. You didn't choose for the world to be the way it is. You can choose to be an agent of change within it, but that certainly can't happen if you're so unregulated and disconnected that you can't do anything. And so I think this year was about, for you, really doing the necessary healing to be able to be in the world without drowning in it, or isolating from the world to avoid drowning. I think you learned how to float on top of it gracefully, but still be in tune with your morals, your ethics, and what is true for you and what you do believe in, which I think is really beautiful. And I think Spirit really wants to praise you highly for your resilience and how you refuse to give up. And like, really, truly, you know, I'm thinking about the fact that the penguin is a flightless bird, and I feel like, I think more than anything, you really just wanted to fly away from everything and like just avoid the earth and like avoid the realities of human problems. And I think instead you dug deep and you accepted what you couldn't control, and you started really stepping up and looking at, what do I need to do to create some sanity in my world and some stability within, and also what do I need to do to get this creative flow coming back, because I feel like it's a really inherent part of you that when you don't have it, I think your world is a lot drier, and I think you feel a lot more disconnected from yourself. So really high praises for you flowing with a lot of this tension and a lot of this chaos and confusion, because I think it led to a lot more clarity about how to navigate that with more ease, and also how to trust yourself, and the realization that there's tons more sources of creativity that maybe you were unaware of now that you can tap into, that just add to your creative experience and your ability to self-actualize through your creativity, and your ability to share your beliefs and create joy in the world through what you create and what you do. So, and creativity is like different for everyone, but this group especially, I feel like, is highly creative. So, you know, creativity around like just even what you cook and how you choose to like interact with people and how you choose to show up, like I feel like all of that was really important for you this year. And I think in a lot of ways you did a lot of healing, and I think you also accepted all parts of you, both the good and the bad. And I think you also learned how to recognize what the difference between projection and mirroring, like when something mirrored back to you something you didn't like, I think instead of trying to reject it, I think you said, well, maybe there's some truth here. And I think that allowed you to recognize when there was just projection, and when there was just something that was trying to keep you away from yourself, whether the person doing it recognized it or not. So I think it's really beautiful. It's really awesome. So let's see what this year was truly about for you. This could be something that continues or doesn't into 2026, but it's really up to you and your intuition and what you believe. So we have the Queen of Pentacles, and yeah, oh, there's they don't even look like boobs, so I hope, well, I'm just gonna put that down there and then we're just gonna move on. Yeah, I think this was the year where you really realized, like, the only way out is through. Like, if you coped with a lot of what I'm describing in years past by just getting like sweet escapes through your creativity or just through your playfulness and your lightheartedness, I think those, like, I think you knew, like, in order for you to reconnect to the parts of yourself that you were cut off from during this time, it's like you really had to parent yourself and get focused and grounded on creating stability and creating routines that not only respect your own sovereignty, but respect your time and energy, respect your value as a human, and also, like, giving yourself enough to be nurtured and well. And I think that these are all things that you were building. And I think you're also realizing the only way out is through. And while that's very hard, I think you're doing amazing, sweetie. And also too, this is literally like the point of life. Like the point, well, I guess maybe one of them. Like, life is trying to get you to be here now in the present, acting and moving, you know? And I think for you, a lot of the goals that you have and a lot of things that you want to do in the world require you to be more grounded and more protected by systems and routines that assert your sovereignty and that protect your nervous system, as well as just, like, protect your creativity. And I think that the whole point of this is really just getting you to a place where you eat challenge for breakfast and actually really enjoy it, because the harvest that comes from it not only is very enjoyable, but also when the only way out is through, sure, going through it is hard, but it's sure as hell better being stuck and being afraid to move forward. And I think that that's really what you've done, and it's really awesome to see, you guys. Like, I think that on a soul level, I think there's going to be more of this, but I think you learned and mastered a lot of challenges this year related to just being the best advocate for yourself and being as supportive to yourself as you could possibly be, and learning to utilize everything happening within you and around you and using it to your benefit, like alchemizing it into wisdom, like using it creatively, using it to inspire you, using it to open your heart, using it to share more of yourself with others. Like, I think you really sat down and did some dirty work this year on yourself so that you could really be more present and embodied and open and empowered in 2026 to really, like, operate and move in the world in ways that not only are you proud of, but also you have conviction in, and will not allow anyone to question that. Okay, so let's see the work that you did this year. What gifts are coming to you as a result of the work you did on yourself or just in the world in 2025? So these are gifts you'll receive in 2026. Yes, we have courage. I find the inner strength to face fear with confidence. I think you're going to be much less afraid to stand up for yourself. And also, I think your own courage is going to inspire others to be more courageous as well and see the light. Yes, positive recognition. Congratulations. Your plans have worked out perfectly, and now it's your time to shine. I'm hearing golden right now in my head. Brilliant new ideas will present themselves to you, and success is all but assured. Express yourself openly and honestly, knowing that those surrounding you are trustworthy. Be open to unexpected opportunities. That's exciting. This is literally the Sun card, by the way. For those of you that are wanting to have a child, first of all, if you haven't checked out my 2026 reading, you might want to, but also like this is all a really positive sign as well. Like, you know, it could have been possible, like if your body was like too stressed or something, it's possible all the healing work you've been doing is setting a foundation to like make that possible. I'm obviously not a doctor and don't know shit, so like take that with a massive grain of salt. But I think ultimately, no matter what, like new life is coming to you in 2026, whether it is in the form of an actual being or a creative project or a new routine or a new way of serving in the world or a new way of giving yourself to others or a new way of just creating, like whatever it is, it's gonna work for you and other people are really gonna enjoy seeing it as well. Okay. I've been sitting here the whole time in my head being like, oh my god, like I don't know if anything that I'm saying is resonating. I don't know if any of it is making sense. I don't even really know what I'm talking about, and like I have no clue what's going on. It's so affirming when I see stuff like that, because I'm like, man, even if I was not on the money for all of it, at least I got some of it down pat. So yeah, enjoy the process. It's time to stop and enjoy the present. Your future is being taken care of by the universe. And I think that's something as well, like divine outcomes are something that, like, at least for me, one thing that I've kind of recognized, like when I have no clue what's going on, I kind of talked about this in the intro. You might want to look at that if you didn't, like during the intro squad part. Like I was kind of in moon energy and I didn't really know what was going on. But I kind of was just like fine with it. Like I wasn't as stressed out about it as I think maybe I would have been a few years ago, because I hadn't, like I just felt intuitively like, I feel like everything's going to work out. It's all going to be fine. And like I've had that affirmed over and over again. So I think that like one gift in 2026 is like, even when you don't know what's going to happen and what the next steps are and what outcomes will be, it really doesn't matter, because I think number one, you're far more engrossed in the process than you are in the outcome, and number two, enjoyment of that makes whatever the outcome is far more satisfying. And also just being present, like you're going to be present more often and realize like, oh wow, like I was missing out on so much being in the past or the future in my head or wherever. Beautiful. No, you're going to be saying no to people. Literally, you're just going to be saying no to people. And I think it's going to be easy for you to reject nonsense, and realize that not everyone is entitled to, not everyone's entitled to your energy. Not everyone is entitled to your patience or your kindness, or, you know, like, I think this is the year where you realize how powerful boundaries are, because the ones that have problems with them are going to show you why those boundaries were important to begin with. I think you're going to be able to say no with grace and ease, and also just say no to chaos, conflict, and nonsense that does nothing but just rattle your nervous system and get you all worked up for nothing and leave you drained. I also think too as well, you're just going to be in a position as well where you no longer need to be understood or be approved of by others in the same way. Like sure, it might hurt or something like that, but I feel like in general, like you have a much greater sense of what isn't for you and what doesn't work. So I think in general, like life is going to be flowing more smoothly, because like you don't feel the urge to fall into old patterns of behavior. And also, you're not worrying about how other people feel about the boundaries you set. You're just setting them. And you're just like, yeah, if they have a problem with it, it's not my problem to deal with. Point blank. And finally, we have perform a random act of kindness. So I really think as well, I feel like one of the things that might have frustrated you this year is you felt like you wanted to do more. Not felt like, you just wanted to do more. You wanted to, whatever that, like, I feel like for 2025, a lot of your goals were on the back burner. And a lot of like how you wanted to be more of a presence in the world around you and how you wanted to contribute to more goodness could not be achieved, because I think that the focus was really about making you okay first and making you safe first. But I think next year, you're really going to be allowed to give more of yourself in meaningful and joyful ways and be able to add to the goodness in the world. And not only is that going to be something that helps you just lay your head on your pillow at night and just be like, you know, I know who I am, and I can sleep good knowing who I am, and also it just feels good to give. Like, I think that it's going to be a lot easier for you to be in your heart, even with people who you would normally try to avoid, or who could be manipulative towards you, or who could, you know, just really override your nervous system. Like, you know, whether it's like verbal attacks or intensity, like I'm just looking at this sword and thinking like, you know, people that are like, if you don't agree with my opinion, then literally you're the scum of the earth. And like, I would love to see you be paraded through the streets naked and tarred and feathered. Like, that sort of energy, I think you're really seeing no. And also, like, you can even have compassion for those people, because it's like, wow, if you really are at that place where you feel so strongly that way about that, you're probably not doing well, and you're probably really going through it. And like, yeah, that's disturbing, but just because you're blind to how maybe you could help yourself doesn't mean that like I need to feel guilty about that. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you're feeling more conviction in how you move in the world, because with the more energy and time that you are being given, which is part of the gift that you've been giving yourself, just because you're more centered, you're actively contributing to more goodness in the world in ways that I think are just an important reminder for you about like how important doing something is, and like how important like talking about it and just commiserating about things and like believing they won't get better doesn't really change anything. But like, just being more of playing more of an active role in your community, or just, you know, giving to others just because you feel like it. I feel like that's going to be something where you just realize like, oh, it's really easy to give, and it's really easy to show up when I put myself first. So I feel like you're just going to have a lot more energy to reach the goals and be and do the things you wanted to do this in 2025 that you weren't able to. I think that there are things that you're going to be able to do in 2026, and it's actually good you had the desire to do those things in 2025, because the things standing in the way of those desires are exactly what you were engrossed in, and you gained wisdom from and learned a lot about, because those are the exact things you needed to you know, reconfigure your relationship with them, and how often and how you move in order to actually get to be able to do those things. So yeah, group 2, I think that is where I'm going to leave this reading. Definitely be sure to go and check out your 2026 aura energy, as well as my 2026 predictions. And reminder, 20% off aura portrait readings, or just aura reading, or I think it's personal readings in general, from Miss Morgan from Pauratraits. Please go support her and send her lots of love. She's very generous to give us that offer. If you'd like to support me, liking this video is super helpful. Letting the ads play in the background while you do something else is incredibly helpful. So thank you to everyone who does that. You can like this video, comment down below, let me know how it resonates. You can subscribe if you haven't already. Click that little notification bell to be notified whenever I upload a new reading. You can check out my merch. You can check out my social media. You can check out other videos, ones with extendeds. You can send me love, leave me a tip. My Cashapp is palehag. My PayPal is my email. And my super thanks. Thank you to everyone who leaves me tips. Though I see all of them, I can only respond on Cashapp. I don't always see the YouTube ones though, so if you leave one, it might take me a minute to get back to you, because I may not know it's there. But yeah, I think I love you guys, and I really hope you have a great 2026. I feel very deeply unsatisfied with this reading because I feel like it didn't scratch the surface of what I was supposed to get to. But maybe that's how you guys felt about this year, and that's why I feel that way. So I'm just gonna let go and trust, because it's worked out for me so far. So Thank you guys so much for being here and for letting me read for you. I really hope you have a wonderful 2026. I hope you all have a wonderful day or night whenever it is that you're watching this video. I love you guys so much, and I hope you'll come back and see me again soon. Bye! Hi there, Pile 3. Welcome to your reading, and thank you so much for being here. If you guys chose the Ametrine Rose and the Affirmators Tarot, this is going to be your reading on reflecting on your 2025. So we're going to go ahead and start by how you would describe your year. If this is accurate, then you found the right group. If you would not describe your year this way, I would try a different group. So to start, we have the King of Wands, and we have Mysterious Mother. Okay. Well, group 3, I would say you would describe your year as one where if you didn't do it, it didn't get done. I really do feel like this was a year where you were kind of a torchbearer through darkness and really had to step up and be a leader, maybe when you didn't necessarily want to. I think that there was definitely this feeling of confidence throughout the year, in the sense that you would face certain challenges and face them head on. And I think also with Mysterious Mother here, I feel like these subtle urges within you, or subtle nudges, you might refer to that as something else other than your intuition. I don't know why I have a feeling some people here that are not typically at readings like this, so you might not even believe in any woo-woo stuff. I used to not either, but whatever it was, something inside of you was kind of, every time you listen to that little feeling, little nudge, little voice, whatever it was for you, I feel like it showed you, I feel like it paid off. And I feel like there was kind of this, like, I think you would describe your past 2025 as difficult but rewarding, in the sense that it seems like you developed a lot of faith in yourself, and also a recognition of not only what you're capable of, but like how your past challenges really assisted you this year. It's almost like understanding, like, you know, it's like, what do I have to do, you know, pre-algebra and then geometry and then algebra before I could do calculus. It's like you're doing calculus and now you understand why I had to do like all the algebra and stuff, you know what I mean? Maybe not, because I don't even know what I'm talking about, and I'm not even very good at math, so it might have been a bad example, but I do think that this was a year where you were really a light for others and really helped lead the way, and not because you wanted to, but because you had to. And man, that's such a mood. I think a lot of leaders, a lot of good leaders especially, step up to lead not because they want to, but because they have to, or because they recognize no one else will do it better, which honestly, good on you for that. I think as well, I think you would say that you, for some of you, I think you had a very accomplished year in terms of like things in the outside world, like career or recognition, success, things like that. But I think for a lot of you as well, this year was more about building up internal reserves, and the rewards were more confidence in yourself, an easier ability to trust how to navigate, less fear of the unknown for sure. Because I definitely think like this year was a dark year, but you're still laughing and you're still smiling. Like, I think that at some points you might have described it as a year of like laughing so I don't cry. But at the same time, I feel like there were moments of serendipity and moments of like breakthrough. And I'm literally seeing the image of someone who's like running a race and they're reaching the finish line and they're like the first one there. So, you know, they got their arms out, you know, that like picture perfect moment. I see you there, like that feeling of I did it. It was hard, but I did it. And I overcame a lot more than I thought I would. And I think that there have been blessings this year for you. That maybe you had a hard time receiving, or maybe you felt like you didn't deserve. And when you embraced them, I think you realized what you were missing. So I feel like you would describe this year as recognizing where there was a lot of lack in terms of giving to yourself. And I think also this is a year where you stop being so damn hard on yourself, because why should you be hard on yourself when nobody else is doing anything? You know, it really kind of seems like one of those energies where it's like you really stopped listening to a lot of noise and started listening to yourself, but also started believing in yourself and trusting in your own inner wisdom in a way that actually allowed you to do more and be less stressed out the entire year, despite maybe this year being way more challenging than any year of your life so far. But I think you may have recognized that those challenges really set you up for success this year. And not only that, that recognition, I think, led to, by the end of the year, you recognizing that everything you went through this year not only just made you a more powerful person, but also you realized the gifts you were given. And I feel like you're sitting in this position right now where you would describe the year as a year of setting you up for future success and setting you up for future endeavors that are not going to be rooted in what you think others need from you or what you think you should do, but rather this co-creation with the universe, which is beautiful, because co-creation, I think, is the best form of creation. And I think for you guys, maybe you really pressured yourself and felt like you had to do everything yourself, or like you didn't even know that there was this like magic system within you that was trying to help support you. But ultimately, I think that there were a lot of nudges from the ether helping you out the entire year. And I think you're starting to recognize, whether you believe it or not, whether you think it's just a figment of your imagination or confirmation bias or synchronicity, whatever you believe in, it did help you. And it did, and you did learn that you could trust it. So I do think that for you, there's a lot of like, wow, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm kind of excited to see where I'm headed, because if I can do and overcome what I did last year, or what I've been dealing with, I think I can kind of do anything. So let's acknowledge a significant challenge you survived or endured or overcame. So for that, we have the Star and we have Wunyo. Okay, so you guys are gonna have to help me with this one, because I don't think healing and joy are challenges. Well, they can be challenges when we have a hard time receiving those energies. You know, maybe this is speaking to the blessings thing. Maybe for some of you, one of the challenges you endured was like letting light in. Maybe you're so used to being a light for others, or, you know, always being the one to lead the charge, be the light for others, that you forgot that you needed it yourself. You know, it's kind of ironic. It's like the sun searching for a star. It's like, oh, it's within you, but also I think you maybe had a hard time receiving it, or when you did receive it, it's like you wanted to give it away, which makes a lot of sense if you are someone that likes to give to others. One thing that I've noticed is that after like I do healings and stuff like that on myself, which is rare, as soon as I feel good, I immediately just want to make videos, or I want to do something with it. And it really takes a minute to learn how to like keep it for yourself. So I do feel like the challenge could have been, honestly, too, just finding time for your own healing, finding time for your own joy. It could have been that like life really required you to, you know, stay focused and keep forging and powering through. But I do feel like for a lot of you, actually, it may be easier for you to forge ahead and power through. But it may be harder for you to slow down and let the universe take the lead. Because let's be clear, the only universal guidance, or whatever you believe in, for whatever reason, I'm feeling very called to explain how I see things. Feel free to skip a little bit ahead if you're not interested and don't care. But I just kind of believe that there is this intelligent universal consciousness rooted in unconditional love for all creation. I think it runs within all things and through all things and connects all things. I don't really see it as like one thing or one being, but I do see it as an ultimately loving universal intelligence that we are a part of, that we have within us, that we are, but also that flows through us, that flows between us, that's always there whether we see it or not. And I do believe that, I don't even know a lot of what I believe, but what I do think is that for those of you that are really struggling with right now, like faith and or like, you know, opening up to things that you feel really skeptical about. Skepticism is good. So like don't feel like you have to discard your skepticism completely. That's not great. It's great to have discernment and it's great to be skeptical. But I definitely feel like for those of you that are there, you know, you might be just on this pathway of being like, what is really going on? Because I'm waking up to this world all around me that I didn't even know existed. And I think one of your biggest challenges actually this year was maybe listening to the cosmic guidance, because that's the point of what I was trying to say is the times where things worked out the most easily were the times when you listen to those inner nudges. It's like, I think that for you guys especially, maybe you're used to learning things the hard way and kind of seeing yourself as like, okay, I don't think you guys see yourselves this way, but the universe is kind of showing me this. Like, Scrappy-Doo. Not like live action movie evil Scrappy, but like Scrappy that's like, let me at him, and like, but like, I think you are quite fierce. It's not like you're a tiny puppy who can't get anything done, but I think you've probably always had that energy. So now that you're a big full grown hound, metaphorically speaking, I think there's a part of you that doesn't know anything different. And I think the universe has been trying to help you let go a little bit, let go and let God a little bit, so that you can bask in the same joy and healing and like beautiful cosmic connection and hopeful energies and like and just getting back into the energy once more of like dreaming and being open to possibility. I think your biggest challenge was receiving those this year, but I think you've had challenges with that in general, and I think maybe this year was bringing that awareness to the forefront where you may have been recognizing like, man, the way I've been doing things is not only draining me, but you might have even found yourself being like envious of certain people, or, you know, and envy is a strong word, so maybe not that, maybe frustrated or jealous or just like irritated by the fact that other people who don't seem to be doing as much as you, or, you know, other people that you're literally helping out seem to be enjoying themselves more, have more time for healing, are dreaming and doing the things that you feel like you couldn't because you didn't have time, and, you know, you're busy taking care of everything. And I think that you may be realizing that some of that, yes, some of that is true, but part of that is true because of how much responsibility you've taken on. And I think maybe for some of you, you kind of realized that, but also I think you may have just realized as well, like, oh wait, maybe I don't know how to do that. And maybe that's something I need to start figuring out. Because I definitely think for you, you have a hard time being selfish with your time and energy. And I think what you call selfish, I call a healthy work-life balance, but, you know, just my take. I think that this past year you kind of maybe started to realize, like, maybe there's part of me that doesn't know how to do this, or maybe there's part of me that doesn't know how to receive this. And because I think there were maybe opportunities for you this year to receive, like when we were talking about the blessings, to receive more healing in that circumstance, or savor it or enjoy it more, but it's almost like you couldn't because half of you was thinking about next week and everything that has to get done, and like it's just almost like you were so busy trying to steer the ship, you didn't realize that the ship was docked and you were actually supposed to be out on the beach having fun. So yeah, hopefully this is not a challenge for you next year, but let's go ahead and celebrate something that you released for good this year. Ooh, okay, all right, I like to see it. 10 of Wands. And I reveal my truth. Okay, so I think something you released for good this year, which is definitely worthy of celebrating, is the need to say yes, or the need to help others no matter what. But also, I think you released for good the need to feel like you have to censor yourself, which I think is really awesome in a world where a whole lot of people are loud and wrong, and a whole lot of people that have really great things to say are quiet and silent and just terrified of the loud and wrong circus everywhere. I definitely think you released for good this year the need or the belief that you can do it all and that it's your job to do it all. I think, it's kind of, I think they chose the 10 of Wands. I think they put a camel here because I think this year at some point there was a straw that broke the camel's back, that camel being you, and you were like, I can't do this anymore, and I think about camels too as animals that can go a long time without water. They cross deserts, but that doesn't mean that they still don't need water. That doesn't mean that they still don't need breaks. That doesn't mean that they still don't need, like, at the very minimum, like basic care and, someone else to consider them as well. I feel like this is the year where you realized you were doing too much, it's all too much, and you got to stop pretending like you can do so much all the time. I think that you released for good the need to punish and torture yourself for the sake of, making others happy, or not having to feel the weight and stress of what it might feel like for you to let someone down. And let me be clear, I think that this was a really hard thing for you to do. And I think that also a lot of what you released for good as well is certain things that happened to you, no matter how long ago, that were still weighing on you and weighing on your psyche. I think this is the year where like the dam kind of broke, and just all of these things that you had been holding in, and all these things that, you either completely forgot about or thought were dead and gone, and like you just didn't even really consider them as things still lingering in your psyche or affecting your behavior. I think you realized it was. And I think you may have even recognized how this need to have like a full schedule or just be doing things all the time, especially when it comes to like, because I see you like, you're a volunteer ass person. Like, you're the type of person who, when they need help, you're gonna show up. Like, I would actually highly recommend, if you do drive, you shouldn't drive a truck, because actually anything with adequate storage space, because I think you're allergic to saying no to when people ask you if to help them move. And owning a pickup truck is just gonna make that a million times worse. So if you were thinking about that, maybe consider a sedan. something that makes people think, oh, well, that's not a practical car to move my Precious Collections figurines. Okay. I think you revealed, I think you released for good a lot of lies about who you are, about what makes you feel good, about what your identity is, about what your role in your family and your friendships and relationship, if you have one, is. And I think that you're really starting to break open. You released for good like this facade that I think you had been holding on to for dear life, because it was really the only thing that grounded you into an idea of yourself that was familiar to you. But that idea of self that was familiar to you was a version of yourself rooted in conditioning that, was created by repeat positive or negative reinforcement by the world around you growing up. And that's not you. That's why that's probably why it felt so hard to like be yourself or do things as you once did, because you were like, well, I don't have any other template here. And that's where this King of Wands, Mysterious Mother comes in, because it's almost like when you didn't know what to do, you got inspiration. And actually, it's when you finally like admitted to yourself, like, I don't know what to do here. I don't know how to move forward. But that's when inspiration came, that's when clarity came, because I think you're just so used to being the one that needs to figure it out, that needs to be, you know, aware and present, that you have not been really given the opportunity and the gift to just sit with yourself and just be. And maybe you didn't even know how to do that. I wonder if that's something that you're going to learn this year, or get better at this year. But I really love to see this, because it seems like this was a year where you were breaking down a lot of conventions around how people expected you to show up, and not replacing them with anything, but rather kind of leaving things open. Because I think to a degree, you know who you are in terms of like character, and in terms of like, you know, what makes you laugh, and personality. But in terms of who you are around roles, and around who people, especially that you respect, expect you to be, or that you love and care about expect you to be, I think those shifted. And it seems like you released for good a narrow identity, a narrow role that was keeping you trapped, and also probably causing underlying resentment between you and the people that you love, or the people that you care about, because, or just you and resentment between people that you shouldn't even really feel that strongly about in general, because you were just having a hard time taking more space to yourself, taking more time to yourself. And maybe you didn't have much of an opportunity to do that, but I would also argue that like taking time or space for yourself doesn't have to be crazy. Like, it's not like I'm saying you needed to take off a week, but like maybe, you know, instead of being like, yeah, I can referee that softball game, instead you're like, nah, sorry, I'm busy tonight. And you just vegetate on your couch. Like, sometimes those things are good. And I think that this is a year where you released for good the real, like, the unconscious belief that you had to show up in the way you were. And I also think you released a lot of beliefs about yourself that caused you to hide who you really are, and even hide a lot of truths from yourself, because I think you almost convinced yourself that that's who you are and that's what you're about. Like, yeah. Anyway, let's get you some high praises for a significant area of growth in your world. Ooh, okay, yes. And we have the wolf. So I would definitely say that you are starting things fresh. But also, one significant area of growth you've had is starting to let people make their own mistakes, and learning to be comfortable letting people carry their own load. I really think this is the year where you realized I gotta let people make their own mistakes. I gotta let people figure it out for themselves, because I don't even know what I'm doing. And I'm too dang tired to keep doing what I'm already doing. But I also feel like a big element of this high praise is centered around the fact that despite it being challenging for you to kind of stop holding certain people's hands, and letting go of like needing to feel responsible for everyone, needing to have it all figured out, like, I think you also did a really great job though at being present with them, even when you didn't have to be, or they didn't ask you. Like, I feel like you did a great job in honoring what you needed, but also doing that in such a compassionate way where people felt like, oh, you actually believe that I can do this? I think actually there are people that, in you kind of backing off and letting them figure things out for themselves, or if you haven't done that yet, they will. I think your belief in them and recognizing that you believe in them is actually more powerful than anything you could do for them, because they might have been under the belief themselves that they couldn't do it without you, or that they couldn't achieve things without you, or that they needed you in order to feel safe and okay. And I think for you, the area of growth was realizing that, number one, you don't have to be paying attention to how other people feel about things. And number two, your responsibilities are not part of your responsibilities are not like just doing other people's shit for them. I feel like you also started letting loose this year. More, I would say more so towards the tail end of the year. Maybe you had a fun New Year's. I hope you did. I feel like you recognized where you were playing into the dynamic, because I think there is a part of you that maybe didn't want to admit that it felt really uncomfortable to get out of a dynamic where you were sacrificing yourself. I think whether it was feeling like a hero, or just knowing that you were needed, or knowing that you were useful, or knowing that you helped someone, you know, I think that can be a very powerful feeling. And I think it's great when it's in balance. But I think maybe you didn't realize, like, you could have been feeling feelings of resentment for some people that you were helping, and then realized later, like, oh, wait, I'm playing into it too, though. Because you could have had opportunities this year where you realized, like, when you had the opportunity to do differently, you still did the same thing, because it was only then you were faced with, wait, it feels uncomfortable to just not carry something. My hands feel like this feels too light. But I think you learned to embrace it. And I think you actually enjoyed it a lot more than you realized. And I think that one of the things that the universe really wants to praise you for is you created a very beautiful inner balance within you, where you didn't forego responsibility altogether. In fact, I think if anything, you probably locked in even further because you were able to focus more on yourself. But also, whatever you did to just kind of let loose and be lighter and just create a fresh start for yourself this year, I think also contributed to this new version of yourself that you're becoming. And I don't know what this new version of yourself will be like. I don't think you do either, but I think we can rest assured say that it will be a really, really great, because I see a wonderful balance here of optimism, hope, excitement, trust, and confidence, but also grit, endurance, ferocity, and unyielding loyalty to your truth, that I think is going to really make 2026 a wonderful year for you. You know, if you're ready for a fresh start, if a fresh start hasn't happened for you yet, if it has already happened, I will say part of the high praises is you created that yourself by listening to your own inner nudges, and by having the courage to do things a bit differently than you have. So I feel called to say Mazel Tov, but I don't know what Mazel Tov means. I believe it means congratulations, but I could be wrong. So feel free, anyone who speaks Hebrew, to correct me in the comments. But I felt called to say that. If you haven't had a new beginning yet, know that it's probably coming this year, because all of this energy is really giving reinvention. And actually, what's really interesting, it feels like a lot of the energies connected to your truth are this like deep indigo. So I think your third eye is definitely going to be opening more this year, and it might freak you out a little bit, but you don't have to make any hard and fast decisions about whether anything is true or not. But if you've never seen the 80s alien movie called They Live, I felt called to recommend that movie to you. It's quite campy at some points, but I think that, which is not a bad thing, I enjoy that. I think it also, though, is a great metaphor for awakening. But I think that you are, and we could argue too, like, you could have already been spiritually awakened. I just felt for some of you like this was like you were like completely turned off and like the lights turned on this year, which is super exciting. Also terrifying and isolating. Get it? But also beautiful. So I think the universe just really wants to praise you for being open to universal wisdom, being open to yourself, being open to not knowing, and also really letting go of responsibility in ways that that were causing you to take on more responsibility than necessary and slow your own path down, as well as those you were taking responsibility for. Anyway, let's go ahead and see what the point of this year, spiritually speaking, was about. So we have the Seven of Cups, wow, and we have rest. So this year for you is definitely about getting into the energy of dreaming again. And also learning to be comfortable with not knowing and not needing to have certainty. I also think this year was about getting you in a place where your body and your mind and your nervous system were just rested enough so that you could be open to energies, thoughts, and just possibilities that aren't really possible when you're using every ounce of your energy every day to just get things done. I think it goes beyond that, though, because I feel like you would even say, well, you know, a few years ago, I could do twice as much as this. And it's like, yeah, you burned yourself out over time, stepping into a role that was not true to who you were, but true to your conditioning and what felt safe for you. It's not a bad thing. I mean, it is a bad thing in terms of like your own path. I mean, I'm just saying you're not bad for doing that. It's bad for you, but it's great that you've seen that. I definitely think this year, like quite literally, was about you starting to get rest and restoring yourself, and also starting to find clarity in ways other than well, how would I word that? It's like finding clarity and realizing not knowing and being unclear are actually far more helpful for you at this point than being certain or sticking to one path or what you know is true. I think this year was about you really exploring different options, exploring different pathways, exploring different states of consciousness and opportunities, and instead of like making any hard and fast decisions about any of it, just kind of taking it all in. I think this year was kind of intentionally meant to be a bit confusing because it was kind of part of the process of helping you surrender and open in ways that were truthfully much needed, and it was very compassionate of the universe to do this, actually, because if things had just been continuing as they were, you would have definitely hit a wall and the burnout would have been, I think, quite severe, actually. I do think that rest is going to be a theme that continues into 2026. And I know, and immediately I feel some of you being like, that's cute. Like, I've got bills to pay. I'm trying to stay housed. Like, I get that. It's especially hard to be rested when you are stressed about very real life things. But one thing I will say is that the best thing that you could ever do is learn how to just take 10 minutes to just breathe, or learn to turn your mind off a little bit, because like everybody deserves a break from that stuff. Like, that stress isn't going anywhere, but we can train our brains to learn how to shut off, even if it's just for a little bit. Like, there's tons of free resources on YouTube. Like, Yoga with Adriene is a great one if you really want to learn how to train your mind, because yoga is literally about uniting the mind and the body and the spirit, and it requires your focus. And then once you have a physical space that you go to, and it becomes habit and routine, it almost becomes easier for your mind to turn off. Or I also highly recommend just exercising until you're tired, because that helps as well turn your mind off a little bit. If you have excess mental energy, worrying about what you're dealing with in the future is a poor use of it. And I think you know that. And I think you're even frustrated with me saying that, which, like, I get. Knowing isn't being, though. And it doesn't matter if you know it. You're not being it. And being it actually takes time and investment in yourself and a willingness to even believe that you can. But I will tell you, the brain is plastic until the very last days of life. You always have room to change. Always. So, with that being said, I think this year for you is about seeing where small changes, in terms of like small changes that are very nourishing and nurturing to you, make room for huge amounts of growth and new pathways, new opportunities, and huge amounts of like consciousness expansion that really helps you clear away the noise and get inner peace, or just reach those states at times, or just a state of neutral comfortability, whatever works for you, that allows you to be in the world and do whatever your sacred work is in the world. Even especially if you don't know what that is yet, or what the next thing yet is, all of this rest and all of this kind of protection that you're creating through all these habits that you're changing, and through kind of giving more healing and joyful experiences and opportunities to yourself, all of that is leading to you being able to be unstoppable in terms of when your mind is focused on something, when you're set on something, when you have inner purpose, passion, and conviction for what you're headed towards. No amount of resistance or disapproval can stop you or even bother you. I feel like you're truly meant to be unbothered. It's like, it makes me think of that Rick quote from Rick and Morty, where he tells an entire crowd, like, your boos mean nothing to me. I've seen what makes you cheer. I think that you really are creating better mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical boundaries that are allowing you not to get caught up in what doesn't belong to you, and allowing you to truly tune into yourself so that you can not only feel more clear on the path that you're meant to go down, and also have more conviction and when to say yes or no to something, when it feels true for you, to be a better advocate for yourself and to have a better relationship with your body, especially. Because I think that your mind kind of dominates your body, in the sense that it kind of pushes it and pushes it. Same with your heart. And I think that this past year and the upcoming year are really about the heart and body reclaiming its balance. You know, the mind right now, or maybe not right now, but like not to say that the mind is leaving completely, that wouldn't be great either, but just rather the imbalance that the mind created, the heart and body are rebalancing naturally by you just listening to their inner rhythms. I also think this year for you is about I think you did a lot of work in the dream realms. If you had weird dreams this year, that could have been something as well. But also, I think this year could have also been about taking a break from the outside chaos and just really giving yourself time to or permission to kind of lock in and focus on what's important, because we can't play around anymore. Overall, though, it seems like in your 2025, like, you navigated it like a champ, and I think that you're a badass, just point blank. But let's go ahead and see gifts that you're going to receive in this upcoming year made possible by the work that you did this year. Ooh, okay. Abundance. I am a limitless being and I can manifest whatever I desire into this physical reality. Yeah, so those of you that were stressed about money, you better take my advice, okay? Because not only you'll thank me, your bank account will thank me too. But abundance is so much more than money. It's a way of looking at things. It's a way of living. And I think that one of the gifts that you'll be receiving in this upcoming year is just a recognition of how limitless you are and how exciting that is, because you already have so many skills, the confidence and the courage to go after what you want. It's like just choosing a path. How cool is that? We have the 10 of Swords. A situation that's been troubling you has come to an end and you can breathe a sigh of relief. With challenging times behind you, you can now move on. It's important to fully let go at this juncture. Someone in your life may now be finally free of his or her addictions or codependency issues. So that could have been something that you were dealing with this year. Or, dealing with helping someone with this year. And one gift that you might be getting in this upcoming year is just, maybe they're healing or maybe you're healing, or there's something where, someone's getting help or something's being taken seriously in a way that maybe it was not in the past. So definitely an ending to unhealthy dynamics. Ooh, okay, so yes. Whatever you're asking or wondering about, the answer is a strong yes. The timing is right and you're ready to move forward. So if there was anything you were curious about or wondering, like, I wonder if this is something, the answer is yes. You guys also got an extra card, by the way. So you have soul family. Call in your tribe. You don't have to do it alone. So if you've been trying to manifest soul family, I think that could be coming in. If there's already soul family in your world, I would say it's also possible too. You could just be spending more time with them. But I definitely think for sure, whether these are ethereal helpers or helpers in the physical, soul family in the physical, I think that you're going to have just a continued level of support in the ethereal and material realms where there is no imbalance because everybody's pulling their weight. And also everybody is willing to I don't know, actually. You'll know though. You're already doing it. Stop overthinking and keep facing your true north. So yeah, you really don't have to overthink this too much. I think that's why I stopped. I was like, I'm overthinking it. I love when stuff like that happens. It's so funny. So you are already doing great. You just need to keep moving forward. You don't have to have it all figured out. You've clearly got it figured out enough to know where you're going, and that's all you need. Turn lemons into lessons. Well, as a young ASO, back in like 2010, I said, when life gives you lemons, throw them at someone you hate. I do think that throwing lemons is a less violent thing to do to someone you hate than, say, a lot of other things you could use. I wouldn't co-sign that now. But I felt called to talk about it. But also I think that this upcoming year, like, you're going to take any setbacks or challenges and just use them as opportunities, and also setbacks or challenges outside of your control. You're going to realize like why they happened and be so grateful that they did, because they actually like work out way better than how you planned things to be. So I think that this is this upcoming year as well, is one where you'll get more gifts and blessings from it the more you work with the energies you are faced with, and the more you see what those challenges like are trying to get you to see, or what wisdom they have for you. So, but I don't think you have any problem doing that. You're quite resourceful. So I think it's just a matter of like applying those lessons and yeah, it's slowing down enough to just give yourself time to process. So group number 3, that is where I'm going to leave this reading. Definitely be sure to go check out your 2026 aura prediction, or not, I guess predictions, over on Pauratraits channel, and also 20 readings are 20% off on Pauratraits website and on her channel. So definitely be sure to go send her some love, get a reading if you want to. It's very generous of her to offer that. Thank you, Morgan. If you'd like to support me though, if you're curious about my reading, sign up for my email list. That is the only way you'll ever be in the know about anything related to that. If you ask me, if you email me, I'm just going to send you a link to my email list if I even see it at all and have the energy to respond. I don't always. And part of the reason why I don't always respond is because that information is available to you if you look for it. I know there's a lot of words there and I need to clean things up, but still, if you ask me what deck I used, I'm not gonna respond. The decks are listed, like I do all that stuff. So if you'd like to support me, thank you so much for letting the ads play in the background while you do something else. I don't expect you to watch them. I'm not a monster, but you know, putting them on mute and just letting 30 seconds pass, great way to get rest, and also a great way to support me. Other ways to support me though, just liking this video, commenting down below, letting me know how it resonates, subscribing if you haven't already. Be sure to click that little notification bell to be notified whenever I upload a new reading. Be sure to subscribe. You can check out my merch, social media, all that jazz. I don't really use it though. Like really, if you want to support me, just like the video, share me with a friend. You can watch videos with extendeds. Yeah, but that's all I have for you guys. So thank you so much for watching and for letting me read for you. I really hope you all have a wonderful day or night whenever it is that you're watching this video. And I hope you'll come back and see me again soon. Bye.